His mom called me the maid at her gala, so I took the mic and exposed her secret. She walked into that mansion carrying her dignity like a crown, but they only saw her skin, not her soul. Her name was Amara, skin like midnight velvet, voice soft like Sunday morning. And dreams? Baby, her dreams could fill the sky. She was a black woman who had made it, grew up in Birmingham with nothing but love, grit, and her mama's prayers, put herself through law school, built her own firm by 30. And when she met Jonathan Whitmore, it wasn't for his money, it was the way he listened, the way he said her name like it was made of gold. But love, sometimes, it walks you into places where your worth gets tested. The Whitmores were old money New York, the kind of wealthy that wore pearls to breakfast and called it casual. Jonathan's mama Evelyn ran the family like a silent empire, chilled smiles and checks with strings attached. When Amara first stepped into their estate in the Hamptons, Evelyn tilted her head and said, "You must be the new house staff. Laundry's through the back." No greeting, no welcome, just a razor wrapped in lace. Jonathan rushed in, flustered, and said, "Mom, this is Amara, my fiancé." Evelyn blinked slow, then offered a dry smile. "Oh, my apologies. It's just, with your complexion and all." She didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Some wounds don't bleed. They just burn. Amara laughed it off that night, told herself she was imagining things. But that's how it starts. A joke here, a look there, a name you ain't supposed to forget. Weeks passed. The wedding was planned at the Whitmore estate. Evelyn insisted. "It's tradition. All Whitmore men marry in the garden." But when Amara suggested her mama walk her down the aisle, Evelyn pursed her lips and said, "We don't usually have extra ceremonies. Extra. Like her mama's love was some accessory. Like her pain didn't birth her pride." Still, Amara held her head high, smiled for the cameras, took pictures in the white dress she paid for herself. But behind every smile, a storm bruise. And Evelyn? Oh, she was planning something. The gala was her stage, and Amara, just the shadow in the wings. But baby, she had no idea the mic would end up in her hands. She thought marrying a rich man meant her struggles were over. But that mansion held storms no one warned her about. The Whitmore Gala was the event of the year. Glass chandeliers dripping with crystals, waiters gliding through like ghosts, white roses flown in from Vienna, and gowns that cost more than mortgages. Amara stood at the top of the staircase, dressed in deep emerald silk that hugged her like royalty, her dark skin glowing like molasses under candlelight. She looked like power. She looked like legacy. But as she walked down those steps, the whispers began. Not loud, just enough. "She's striking, isn't she? Different. I didn't know Jonathan had such taste." They smiled, sipped, looked again. Evelyn floated to her like smoke, her diamond brooch flashing under the lights. She looped her arm through Amara's and leaned in. "Be a dear, would you? The caterer's late. Perhaps you could help in the kitchen." Then she smiled, a smile colder than winterbone. Amara stared at her, felt her throat tighten. But she said nothing, because Jonathan was watching, because cameras were flashing, because sometimes dignity means swallowing the stone and smiling anyway. But the cut ran deep. That night, Evelyn gave her speech. Every year she toasted legacy and bloodline, talked about resilience, honor, and family tradition. Her voice smooth like velvet, her words sharp as broken glass. Then she turned, gestured toward Amara in front of hundreds. "And of course, a round of applause for our newest addition. She's been such a help." Even brought out the hors d'oeuvres herself. Laughter, light, polite. But it sliced through Amara's chest like a knife. Jonathan's hand squeezed hers under the table. "She didn't mean it like that," he whispered. "But silence ain't neutral, baby. It's a choice." And he chose it. The room spun. Memories of her mother's hands, calloused, warm, cooking late into the night to make ends meet, of cleaning houses that looked just like this one, of being told, "You're not like the other girls," with that same thin smile. So when the mic was passed for Amara to give her toast, yes, Evelyn insisted she speak too. She took it with both hands and smiled. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice steady, clear. "It's a beautiful thing to be seen, and an even braver thing to speak." That's when Evelyn's smile faded. Just a flicker, but Amara saw it. And baby, she was just getting started. Some smiles shine like gold, but hide venom bitter than bile. Amara held the mic like it weighed 1,000 years. And in a way it did, because that moment carried every time she was told to be quiet, every job where they touched her hair without asking, every boardroom where her ideas were stolen, then served back by someone whiter, louder. She cleared her throat. The room hushed. "Some of y'all may think I'm just a girl who got lucky, that I stumbled into this family from the side door, that I don't belong here." She looked around slowly, paused. "Let me be clear. I didn't stumble nowhere. I built myself, brick by brick, book by book, bruise by bruise." Jonathan stiffened beside her. Evelyn's smile tightened like thread pulling through silk. But Amara was calm. "My mama cleaned homes like this one. Polished silver for women who wouldn't look her in the eye. She used to say, 'We may scrub their floors, baby, but our dreams, they stay spotless.'" A few guests shifted in their seats. Amara turned to Evelyn slowly. The room leaned in. "So when you called me the help tonight," gasps rippled. Evelyn's eyes widened. Subtle, but there. "You didn't just insult me. You insulted every woman who ever worked to make sure her daughter could stand in a room like this, with her back straight and her heart unbroken." Silence. Even the violins had stopped. "But maybe," Amara added, voice dropping to velvet, "the real help in this house is the silence that's been hiding something else entirely." Now Evelyn was pale, because baby, Amara had come prepared. She reached into her purse, pulled out a small envelope, gold-trimmed, embossed. "I wasn't going to read this, but since you brought me up like I was a prop on display, I figure might as well tell the truth." She unfolded the paper, voice low, slow. "Dear Amara, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and there's something you deserve to know. About Evelyn, about Jonathan, about the inheritance." The room gasped. "And Evelyn?" Her hands trembled ever so slightly. "I won't finish it now," Amara said, folding the letter back neatly. "But let's just say, some legacies weren't earned. They were stolen." She handed the mic back with a gentle smile, turned to Jonathan. "You knew, didn't you?" He said nothing, but his eyes said everything. They said she was too dark to be family, but sometimes silence is a louder answer than words. The next morning, the Whitmore estate was quieter than a funeral. Not a single plate clinked. Not a whisper traveled the halls. And Evelyn, she didn't leave her room, because Amara's words had echoed through the marble walls like thunder through glass. And that letter? Oh, baby. It held more than truth. It held proof. Amara sat at the edge of the bed she shared with Jonathan, though last night she slept alone. She unfolded the letter again, written in the shaky hand of Jonathan's late grandfather, Charles Whitmore Sr., a man Evelyn swore died of natural causes. But the letter told another tale. "My dear Amara, I met you only once, and in that moment I saw a spark in your eyes that reminded me of someone I once loved and lost. There are truths buried in this family that need daylight. Evelyn has hidden much, including the real source of our wealth, the people we harmed. The names erased. This estate was built on exploitation. But my final wish is that something good comes of it, that someone with your kind of heart brings justice to our name." Tears slid down Amara's cheeks, silent, hot. Not because she was broken, because she felt seen, finally, even in death. At the bottom of the letter was a postscript. "There's a key, hidden in the back of the fireplace in the East Library. Use it. The truth lives in the old ledger." She folded the letter, stood tall, and walked down the cold halls, past portraits of stiff white ancestors, through the East Library, the one Evelyn never let anyone enter. Behind the fireplace grate, she found it, a small brass key. Warm to the touch, she held it to her chest and turned toward the old armoire in the corner. Unlocked it. Inside was a thick, dust-covered ledger. Names, numbers, transactions, a map of pain, enslaved families, hidden properties, bribes paid to silence lawsuits, and Evelyn's name, signed again and again. She staggered back. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind her. She turned, and there stood Evelyn. Her voice, ice. You were never supposed to see that. She opened the door she was never meant to open. Evelyn stood in that doorway like a ghost from another life. Perfect hair, robe tied tight, not a single eyelash out of place. But her mask, that mask was slipping. Amara clutched the ledger to her chest like it was a beating heart. You lied, she whispered, but her voice held steel. Evelyn stepped into the room slowly, each heel click echoing like judgment. No, dear, I curated. There's a difference. That cold, elegant poison in her tone. She wore racism like Chanel. Expensive, subtle, and sharp enough to cut. This book, Amara said, holding it up, proves your family's fortune was built on black labor, stolen land, and bribes. Evelyn's jaw tightened. We did what we had to. That's what survival looks like in this world. We built, we maintained, we protected. You exploited. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. And now you want to tear it all down for what? A moment of pride? Amara stepped forward, her voice quiet now, but unshakable. Not for pride, for truth. For every woman like my mother, who cleaned your friends' homes and was told to be grateful for crumbs. For every black child who thought being smart wasn't enough to be seen. Evelyn crossed her arms. So you think you can waltz in, parade around like a savior, and rewrite our legacy? Amara smiled, soft, certain. I don't want your legacy. I'll build my own. And with that, she walked out, ledger in hand, fire in her chest. That night, she scanned every page, took photos, documented it all. She didn't tell Jonathan. Not yet. But she saw it now. This wasn't just about a marriage. This was a battlefield of memory, money, and moral rot. She called her mentor, Judge Clarice Mays, a retired black woman with a spine of steel and a memory long as justice. Clarice's voice on the phone was low and firm. Baby, if this is what I think it is, you just stepped into a storm that's been waiting for centuries. They said she didn't belong in that house, but now the house was shaking from the truth she carried. You want to know what Judge Clarice told her to do next? Judge Clarice didn't mince words. Scan it, copy it, lock it up. And baby, don't you let that truth out of your sight. Amara did just that. Put the ledger in a fireproof case. Uploaded the files to 3 different drives. One she hid in her old apartment in Harlem. Another she mailed to her cousin in Atlanta. The third stayed in her bag, tucked right next to her spine. Jonathan noticed the shift. She stopped flinching when Evelyn spoke. Stopped shrinking. Started studying every corner of the estate like it was a crime scene. Because it was. One night, he cornered her in the study. You've been distant, he said, voice trembling. What's going on? Amara looked up from the file. You tell me. He blinked. What? She slid the ledger across the desk, watched his face go pale. You knew, she said quietly. Maybe not all of it, but enough. Jonathan opened the book slowly, saw his grandfather's signature, his mother's hand in false charities, hush money payments, the land deed stolen from freedmen after Reconstruction. He looked like a boy again, lost. I didn't think it was real. I thought it was just family rumor. No, baby, Amara said, her voice low, heavy with grief. It's blood, on your name, on this house. He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. You stayed quiet, even when she humiliated me in public, even when I begged for you to say something. Jonathan looked ashamed. But shame without change? That's just decoration on cowardice. I need to fix this, he said. Amara stood. Then start by telling the world the truth. He stared at her. You mean, go public? She nodded. We file a case. Clean this legacy from the inside out. Or I will, without you. For the first time, he saw her. Not just the woman he married, but the storm she was carrying. That night, he sat alone in the garden, where they were supposed to say their vows. Evelyn watched him from the window, glass in hand, jaw clenched. She knew the silence was breaking. And Evelyn, she was ready to fight dirty. Some houses crumble from wind. Others rot from within. You want to know the first thing Evelyn did to silence Amara? Evelyn Whitmore didn't scream. She didn't threaten. That wasn't her style. No, baby. Evelyn was a serpent in silk. She used whispers sharper than knives. and smiled while she cut you. 3 days after Amara showed Jonathan the ledger, Evelyn invited her to tea. Just the two of them. In the solarium, white lace tablecloth, bone china, fresh lemon scones. The air was thick with jasmine, and something colder. Amara sat across from her, spine straight, face calm. Evelyn poured the tea herself, a gesture meant to seem gracious, but power dripped from every motion. I was raised to be gracious to guests, Evelyn began, but not to threats. Amara didn't blink. Then I suppose you'll need to learn something new. Evelyn stirred her cup slowly. Do you know what happens when a scandal touches a family like mine? She smiled, soft, deadly. Nothing, because we write the papers. We fund the judges. We own the silence. Amara leaned forward. Then maybe it's time the silence gets evicted. Evelyn's eyes flickered, but only for a second. She reached down, slid an envelope across the table. 5 million. No questions asked. You sign this non-disclosure. You walk away from Jonathan, and you disappear, in peace. Amara didn't touch the envelope. Is that what you think I want? Evelyn sipped her tea. I think every girl who came from nothing has a price. The smart ones take the money. The proud ones get crushed. Amara stood. You're mistaking pride for power. I don't want your money, Evelyn. I want the truth to breathe. She turned to leave. Evelyn's voice dropped low. Then know this. When I destroy you, it won't be loud. It'll be quiet, and no one will even know who started it. But baby, that was the wrong woman to threaten, because Amara had lived through worse. She'd slept on floors, eaten ramen in candlelight, buried friends, watched dreams collapse, and through it all, she never sold her soul. That night, Evelyn made her first move. 2 days later, Amara's law license was suspended, pending allegations of fraud. A case she'd won 3 years ago was suddenly under review. Anonymous complaints, fabricated evidence. The message was clear. Evelyn wasn't going to fight in court. She was going to ruin her. Some women wield swords. Others write lies in cursive. You want to know who showed up at Amara's door next? It was raining when the knock came. A soft, deliberate tap. 3 times. No more. Amara opened the door slowly and found a woman standing there. Gray trench coat, wide brim hat, eyes like dusk. She looked familiar, but not from this life. Miss Whitmore, the woman said, voice deep, smooth. I believe you've met the Whitmores, but not all of them. She stepped inside without waiting for an answer, dropped a folder on Amara's coffee table, and pulled back her hat. My name is Colette Whitmore, Evelyn's sister-in-law, Jonathan's aunt, and the secret she's been burying for 30 years. Amara stared. The woman's skin was deep brown, her features sharp, striking. She looked like she carried storms in her cheekbones. You're black, Amara whispered. Colette smiled sadly. Half, but that was too much for Evelyn. She poured herself a glass of water, moved like she owned the space. I married Evelyn's brother in 1986. He loved me, but when he died in a car accident 2 years later, Evelyn erased me, said I was just a phase, took my inheritance, took my name off the books, paid me to leave and stay silent. She opened the folder. Inside, photos, legal documents, letters with Evelyn's signature, proof of everything. Why come to me? Amara asked. Colette looked her in the eye. Because you're the only woman who ever stood up to her in public, and because if we don't burn the lies now, my daughter will grow up thinking silence is safety. Amara's breath caught. You have a daughter? Colette nodded. She's 15, skin like cinnamon, and Evelyn's never met her. Never will, unless we take this family back from the shadows. Amara sat down, felt the weight of something deeper now. This wasn't just revenge. This was legacy, justice, wrapped in names erased and bloodlines denied. They said she was too dark to be family, but the blood didn't lie, and neither did the truth. You ready to find out what Evelyn did when she realized her biggest secret had come home? The Whitmore estate stood still, quiet as a held breath, but inside Evelyn's study, fire had already begun to spread. She stared down at the photograph. Judge Clarice had leaked to the press that morning. A family portrait, yellowed and folded, her late brother William standing beside a radiant black woman and a baby girl in his arms. The caption beneath it? Colette Whitmore returns, the family they tried to erase. Evelyn crushed the paper in her hand. Jonathan burst into the room, eyes wild. Mom, is it true? He slammed the door behind him. You told me Uncle Will died alone, that he never married, that there was no child. Evelyn turned slowly. Because I spared this family the embarrassment. Her voice wasn't raised. She never yelled. Her rage came wrapped in quiet ruin. Your uncle was soft, fell for a woman he couldn't protect. And when he died, she wanted a piece of what wasn't hers. Jonathan stared at her. Disbelief etched across his face. You mean Colette? You mean his wife? Evelyn raised an eyebrow. A wife without a ring, without a will, without proof. Just stories and skin tone and claims. Jonathan sank into a chair, stunned. And the baby? Evelyn looked away. For the first time, she didn't answer. Because some sins don't have justifications. They just have shadows. Meanwhile, Amara and Colette were already moving. They held a press conference that afternoon, small, just a few trusted journalists. They laid out the family tree, the stolen inheritance, the forged documents, the land deeds, the ledgers. And baby, when those ledgers hit the air, it was like watching glass crack in slow motion. The Whitmore Foundation sponsors began pulling out. Universities that bore their name demanded explanations. The media started digging deeper. Old lawsuits, mysterious settlements, missing black heirs. Jonathan showed up at Amara's place that night. No driver, no suit, no armor. Just a man who looked like he was finally seeing his own house. I don't know how to fix this, he whispered. Amara didn't offer comfort. She offered truth. Then learn. Start by standing up, and stop hiding behind your mother's skirts. He nodded, tears in his eyes. But in the corner of the room, Colette watched. And later that night, she said something that froze Amara in place. You know why Evelyn's so afraid of you. It's not just your skin. It's not your voice. It's because you look like her. Amara blinked. What? Colette sat down slowly. Not physically, but your fire, your defiance. You're the daughter she was never brave enough to be. And in that moment, everything changed because Amara realized this fight wasn't just about revenge. It was about freeing every woman trapped in a story she didn't write. Some legacies are built on silence, but some women were born to break it wide open. You ready to hear what Evelyn did when the final document leaked? The one she forged with her own hand? It came from an anonymous source, but everyone knew who leaked it. The final document, dated 1987, a forged amendment to William Whitmore's will, Evelyn's signature on the bottom, written over a faint, original draft, where Colette and her baby girl were named primary heirs. The news hit like lightning. Even the most loyal board members couldn't defend it. Even Evelyn's legal team resigned. Amara watched it unfold from her Harlem apartment, with Colette on one side and Judge Clarice on the other. The TV screen showed Evelyn leaving her own home. Paparazzi flashes lit up the night like war. No pearls, no power, just a coat pulled tight, and a silence she could no longer weaponize. Jonathan stood beside Amara, pale. What happens now? He asked softly. Amara turned to him. Now we reclaim what was stolen. The lawsuit was filed the next morning. Colette as the rightful widow, her daughter the bloodline heir, Amara as the whistleblower and legal counsel. The charges, fraud, forgery, obstruction, and generational theft. The media dubbed it the Whitmore Reckoning. But for Amara, it wasn't about headlines. It was about her mother. The day she visited her in Birmingham, Amara knelt beside the garden where they used to grow collard greens and marigolds. "Mama," she whispered, "I didn't take the money. I took the truth." Her mother touched her cheek. "And baby, that's worth more than every dollar they ever stole." That night, back in New York, Amara received a letter, no return address. Inside, a photo, a portrait being hung above the Whitmore fireplace, not of Evelyn, not of William, but of a dark-skinned girl in emerald green, standing tall, Amara, and beneath the photo, etched in gold, in honor of truth, courage, and unbought grace. They said she didn't belong in that house, but now her portrait hangs in the golden frame above the fireplace. The courtroom was cold, not just from air conditioning, but from the weight of history trying to press down on the necks of women who had dared to speak. Colette sat on the left, head held high, her daughter beside her, 15, brave and beautiful. Amara sat on the right, next to Judge Clarice, both dressed in deep navy, their dignity untouched, and across from them, Evelyn Whitmore. No pearls, no press, no sons beside her, just a hard face and a tighter silence. The trial lasted 4 days. Each one peeled back a layer of lies Evelyn had worn, like satin. Day 1, the forged will. Experts testified to the handwriting. Colette's original version restored. Day 2, the Whitmore Foundation's hush money settlements, including payments to silence black staffers who reported abuse and discrimination. Day 3, Jonathan himself took the stand. He looked right at the judge. My mother taught me to protect the family name, but I've come to learn that a name built on theft isn't worth protecting. Evelyn didn't look at him. Day 4, Amara stood up. No notes, no paper, just her voice. Your Honor, this isn't just about money. It's about what happens when power thinks it can rewrite truth and erase people like Colette, people like me. But we're not erasable. We're the ink. Silence followed. And then the ruling came. Restoration of inheritance to Colette Whitmore and her daughter. Sanctions against Evelyn. Criminal investigation pending. Evelyn didn't speak, didn't move. She just closed her eyes, as if the world she built was finally cracking wide open. But the most powerful moment came later, when the judge turned to Amara. Ms. Hayes, you've reminded this court that silence is not justice, it's absence, and your voice brought justice back into the room. Outside, the press flooded the courthouse, but Amara didn't stop for cameras. She walked straight to her mama's old church in Harlem, lit a candle, whispered one word, free. Some storms don't come to break us. They come to cleanse the land. You want to hear how Evelyn tried one last time to take it all back? A month passed. The estate was being audited, the foundation under restructuring. Amara was back in her office, rebuilding her firm from the ground up, this time with her name on the door in gold. But one morning a strange package arrived. No name, no card, just a single teacup inside, white porcelain. The same kind Evelyn used at the gala, and tucked beside it, a folded napkin, scented faintly of rose and something older, like dust and memory. On the napkin, just 4 words written in black ink. We're not done yet. Amara stared at it. Something in her chest tightened. That night, she got a call. This is Detective Morales. We need to inform you that Evelyn Whitmore has petitioned to challenge the ruling on grounds of mental instability at the time of the will's original filing. Amara sank into her chair. She's trying to plead insanity? That, and something else. She's naming you as the instigator, claims emotional coercion, and targeted harassment. Amara didn't cry, didn't rage. She smiled, because she'd been expecting this. Let her come, she said softly. I've got truth on my side, and a courtroom that knows my name. She hung up, called Colette, called Clarice. They met that night at the same Harlem diner where Amara first dreamed of becoming a lawyer. They sat at the booth in the corner, ordered peach cobbler and hot coffee, and planned, not just defense, legacy. We don't fight just to survive, Amara said, stirring her spoon slowly. We fight so the next girl doesn't have to bleed for her seat at the table. Colette looked at her, eyes full. You ever think you were meant for this? Amara smiled. I don't think I was meant to be quiet. Outside, the night stretched wide, and Harlem hummed like a song full of black girls' names, not forgotten, not erased. She walked into that mansion carrying her dignity like a crown, and now she walks through the world with history behind her and the truth in her hands. You ready to see how Amara finally broke the chain? For good? They called it the hearing of the century. Old money on one side, new truth on the other. But Amara didn't dress for war. She wore soft brown silk, the same color as her mother's hands. No makeup, no mask, just her skin, shining like defiance. Evelyn entered with a new lawyer, slick, expensive, empty, her hair pulled tighter than her face, still poised, still pretending. But something in her had withered. She looked smaller now, not in stature, but in soul. The judge looked at both women. This appeal is being considered on the grounds of mental impairment and coercion. Mrs. Whitmore, do you still stand by your statement that you were unwell when the will was altered? Evelyn glanced sideways. Her voice was cold but brittle. Yes, I was not myself. The judge leaned forward. And you accuse Ms. Amara Hayes of manipulation? Silence. Then Evelyn said, I believe she used her influence over my son to unravel my judgment. A quiet scoff came from the gallery. It was Judge Clarice, sitting with her arms crossed, unbothered. Amara rose slowly. Your Honor, she said, Evelyn Whitmore has made a life out of erasing women like me. But today I won't argue against her. I'll let her own words do that. She turned to the screen behind them. A video played, a clip from Evelyn's own deposition, never meant to be public. If we let every woman of color claim they were wronged, we'd have to rewrite all our records. The room went still. Then, gasps. Eyes darted. Whispers flurried like leaves in wind. The judge raised her gavel. Enough! She turned to Evelyn. Mrs. Whitmore, your appeal is denied. Your actions were deliberate. Your silence strategic. This court recognizes the original ruling. Further charges may be pursued under criminal investigation. Evelyn didn't cry, didn't faint. She just looked hollow. Her gaze found Amara one last time, but Amara didn't look back. That night, as the sun sank over Whitmore Hall, Amara walked through the garden one last time. She found a bench beneath the tree where the wedding was supposed to happen, where Evelyn once told her she didn't belong. She took out her phone, called her mama. It's done, she said. Her mama's voice was soft, breaking. And baby, you did it without becoming them, because that was the miracle. Amara never raised her voice, never threw a punch, never slung mud. She used the same tools they tried to deny her. Words, truth, dignity. Some women break down doors. Others walk in so boldly, the walls fall on their own. You want to know how she rewrote the ending? With her own pen this time? 3 months passed. Spring came to New York like a soft hymn. Trees blooming, babies giggling on stoops, and black women walking proud with their curls to the sky. Amara bought a brownstone in Harlem, named it the Hayes House. Not a mansion, not old money, but every brick was hers. She turned it into a sanctuary. Legal aid upstairs, support groups downstairs. Every Thursday night they held story circles where black women told their truths without interruption. Colette came often. So did her daughter, now smiling wider than before. Judge Clarice spoke one evening, told the girls, You ain't a whisper. You ain't a mistake. You're the beginning of a truth too loud to be silenced. Jonathan came by once. He stood on the sidewalk, holding flowers and something soft in his face. Amara opened the door. He said, I lost the house, but I found the truth, and I still love you. She smiled. Then love me from a distance, 'cause I've got work to do. He nodded. She closed the door gently. No hate, just healing. Later that week, a letter arrived, from Evelyn, handwritten. I see now that I feared you because I could never be you. You carry what money cannot buy, and I hope, one day, you'll forgive me. Not for me, but for the part of you I tried to crush. Amara folded the letter, lit a match, watched it burn. Some things don't deserve to be archived, but others belong in gold. At the entrance of the Hayes house, Amara hung a plaque. It read, For the daughters they tried to erase, we are the ink, we are the authors, and baby. Every Friday the women sang, low and soft, songs about ancestors, about dignity, about fire that doesn't destroy, it refines. She thought marrying a rich man meant her struggles were over, but what she found was the fire inside herself, and when it burned, it didn't just light her path, it lit the way for others too. You ready for the final chapter, sugar? The one where the story closes, but the power keeps on echoing. It was quiet now, not the kind of silence that crushes you, the kind that settles over truth, like sunlight on skin. Amara walked through the halls of the Whitmore estate for the very last time. Papers signed, inheritance transferred, history rewritten. But this time she didn't flinch. The staff nodded with reverence. No more whispers. No more pretending. She entered the grand ballroom, the one where Evelyn first called her the help, where she stood, humiliated with a tray of hors d'oeuvres in one hand and her pride crushed beneath designer heels. Now, she stood tall, hands free, soul whole. On the far wall above the fireplace, a new portrait had been hung. It was her, not posed, not polished. It showed Amara mid-speech, eyes bright, mouth open, one hand raised, a woman in motion, in truth, in power. Beneath it, a gold plate read, Amara Hayes, lawyer, daughter, stormwalker. She reached into her purse and unfolded a small piece of paper, a poem her mama once scribbled on the back of a grocery receipt, words that guided her through sleepless nights and long trials. She whispered it now, voice breaking. They won't call you daughter. They won't call you queen. But your walk will write stories where your name has been. Let 'em try and erase you. Like breath in the air, you were born of survival. They won't find you nowhere. 'Cause baby, you're everywhere. Amara smiled through tears, folded the poem, tucked it behind the portrait, then turned to leave. But not before pausing in the doorway. She didn't turn back. She didn't need to. She was no longer walking away from that house. She was walking into her future, one where she didn't beg to belong. She built belonging, brick by brick, voice by voice. That night at the Hayes house, she stood before a room of women, all colors, all ages, all carrying stories like stars inside them. She told them, this world will try to name you, to shrink you, to sell your silence in exchange for a seat. But baby, don't take their table. Build your own, and make it so wide, even your enemies have to sit down and listen. The room rose to their feet, clapping, crying, singing. And Aunt Grace? She smiled through her own tears as she said, if this story touched your heart like it touched mine, leave a word below. Let the world know we've been through the fire and came out shining. Aunt Grace is always here, with stories for souls that don't just survive. They rise,